Space is another significant element of art. There are only two kinds of space. It's either positive or negative. Rubens' vase is arguably the most famous demonstration of what negative and positive space is. This ambiguous image is also a good representation of what figure and ground means. Rubens' vase was created by the Danish psychologist Edgar Rubin around the year 1915. What do you see when you look at this image? Are you sure it is only a vase? If you focus your eyes upon the white shape surrounding the vase, you may see something else. What is it? And what about these images? What do you see? Young or old woman? Duck or rabbit? Not unlike Rubens' vase, these reversible images are equally perspective dependent. Negative space is the space around and between positive shapes. Negative space is most evident when positive shapes blend with each other. In that case, the space in between subjects will in all likelihood create an interesting or artistically relevant shape or form. Space, both positive and negative, is most clearly visible in artworks with high contrasting elements, such as in this example by artist Maurits Cornelis Escher. What is positive and negative here in this artwork? Are the fish positive or the duck? Or is it the other way around? Escher used negative and positive space to create tessellations with two or more motifs. In the previous example, Escher used two motifs, a duck and a fish, to create a simple tessellation. This tessellation is even simpler since the artist uses only a fish as a motif, which he repeats over and over. In Kara Walker's artworks, negative space does not create significant shapes, but it is rather positive shape, what her artworks are all about. Only to make things a bit more confusing, the artist uses black painted paper cutouts for the positive shapes. The artist blends positive shapes to emphasize the silhouettes of various figures, such as in this mural. Space and form. In three-dimensional media such as sculpture, we don't talk about shapes, but form. Henry Moore often used negative space in his sculptures to create a figure and ground effect, such as in this large sculpture titled Large Two Forms. Henry Moore's sculptures were groundbreaking because, not unlike sculpture of the Mannerism period, the viewer was invited to go around the sculpture. Also, not only these sculptures were different from every point of view, they had inner forms as well, suddenly allowing the surroundings in. The viewer could literally see through these sculptures. For all these reasons, the autonomous space of a neatly contained sculptural form, a neatly circumscribed universe, ceased to exist, as was the case with much of the modernist sculpture of the time. Rachel Whiteread cast the spaces that objects occupy rather than the objects themselves. In 1993, she did a cast from the interior of a Victorian terraced house in London's East End. Negative and positive space equate with private and public space here in this sculpture. In fact, quote, Whiteread's in-situ work transformed the space of the private and domestic into the public, a mute memorial to the spaces we have lived in, to everyday existence and the importance of home. Unquote. Rachel Whiteread's casts also use additive processes, which is when material is added or assembled. Double Negative, by American sculptor Michael Heiser, is a good example of land art. It consists of two gouges at the edge of a mesa, a large trench crossing the land. Double Negative is a large piece of sculpture, so large in fact that can be seen from the sky. Double Negative was created by excavating and subtracting soil with modern machines. In sculpture, a subtractive process is when material is removed or carved out. Gordon Matt Clark's conical intersect, an artwork created in 1975, is another good example of the use of negative space. This artwork was created by demolishing and removing debris out of two adjacent 17th century derelict buildings. Notice how the circular cut in the exterior wall of this artwork creates a window into the landscape, not unlike Henry Moore's sculpture above. The artist was an architect by training and called these interventions anarchitectures, or non-humants, as a negation of architecture and monument. Splitting, an artwork created in 1974, also by Gordon Matta Clark, employs similar tools and materials, but takes a more conceptual approach to negative space. Both artworks use subtractive processes exclusively. The artist cuts out or cuts through buildings with power tools, and by so doing he creates negative space. As demanding as cutting through walls may be, the gesture itself is quite straightforward, and it's all the artist needs to create his artworks.